Team Rin has just finished their last match in the second selection arc and walks off leaving Chigiri, Baru and Nagi behind. They walk into a dark room and see Ego on 3 different monitors, as if one wouldn't have been enough. Ego tells them that he will teach them the mechanism of luck in the football world. Isagi is clueless about the mechanism of luck, and because of that, he screams out saying that luck is just luck, and that it's based on coincidence, nothing more. Ego looks bothered and says that that's the thing that losers always say before telling all of them to be quiet, and asks them the most important question in a decade. No, not even that a century, as Ego asks them if they ever been shat on by a pigeon. This confuses the players before he says that it's the worst when it happens, and that you always notice afterward. Even so, this is all something that they could have avoided if they would have noticed beforehand. So can you truly call that bad luck? After that, he moves on to yet another question, as he asks them to imagine a lottery game at a summer festival. If the store owner were to only put losing tickets and someone drew a losing ticket, could you really call that bad luck? Isagi has never been this confused before as he asks Ego what his point is. Ego says that luck is not something to be found just anywhere, rather it's something that descends only upon those standing where it will drop. The same concept applies in a game of football. Imagine those 90 minutes of a football match with a series of inevitabilities and coincidences, improving your shooting, dribbling, and passing in order to make full use of one's strategies and formations. All of those acts are deliberated to create the inevitability called a goal. Ego tells the players to think back to when they managed to make one from zero, increase the repeatability of their goals, and of course, learned to wield their weapons and formulas. You could say that everything they have learned in Blue Lock was to increase the rate of the inevitability of their goals. However, the moment their teammates and their opponents' acts of inevitability collide, even if they like it or not, coincidences begin to crop up, which becomes the epicenter of luck. This is exactly what happened in the final play. The moment when Bachira broke through the back line and headed for the goal, there were 5 of them there who either slowed down or stopped entirely, except for Isagi, who had predicted this and continued to press onwards in the judgment of that singular moment. They became spectators of the goal. Even so, there was one person who of course was Rin. Instead of slowing down, sped up towards Isagi, realizing that the ball would not be passed to him. Rin grasped instantly from Isagi's blocking motion that there was possible coincidence that the ball would rebound and continued to run. Isagi has had enough and tells them to hold up a second. He says that he admits that it was because Rin didn't stop running that he managed to score, but even so, wasn't it pure chance that the ball fell towards him, and that there was a chance that the ball would have fallen in front of someone else? Ego tells him that he's correct, but asks him if that isn't just the chance of who gains possession of the ball, saying that for a striker, it's the same as drawing a losing ticket. Ego says that, for example, if Rin had slowed down like everyone else, there's a chance the ball could have still fallen towards him. But if he were to gain possession of the ball in that position, the opposing team's defenders would have reached him straight away, and because of the time it would take for him to trap and shoot the ball, it wouldn't have given a good position to score from. Going back to the pigeon and saying that, in other words, the pigeon shit wouldn't fall there. That's why Rin sped up towards the position where the moment of luck dropped on him. And at that moment, the place where if one so attempted they could draw the winning ticket, there was only one person there waiting for his luck. Ryu straight up says that Rin went to where the shit would hit him, and I can just imagine Rin smacking him for that when they get out of there. However, even with all that, there was always the chance of the ball falling into the possession of the other team. And if that were the case, then given their positions and their numbers, the outcome of the game would likely have gone the other way. That's just how close and fierce that game was. You can't deny that luck was the determining factor in who won this game, but when luck does come around, those who only sit back and watch will invariably waste that chance, asking them if it isn't a given, and that if they aren't prepared to take advantage of that coincidence, and only reach out for luck when it's staring them in the face, it will already be too late. Telling them that only those who foresee the possibility and prepare for it, and those who have trained in order to be able to seize the opportunity whenever it presents itself, and those who have determined where that chance will fall and lies in wait. It's only those with that keen sense of smell that will be smiled upon by the goddess of luck. He asks them if they now understand that both luck and coincidence are part of football, and that the ones who leave themselves at the mercy of luck will be forever second-rate. After that, Isagi asks Rin if he already knew all this. Rin tells him that he didn't, and what Ego is telling them isn't the entirety of it. Telling him that he had the option of not making that goal. It wasn't an opportunity that he created for himself, rather a coincidence that Isagi created that just happened to come around to him. Telling Isagi that he only won because of the difference in their luck, Rin made that goal in order to accept that reality as a warning to himself for having almost lost to Isagi. Isagi is both amazed and stunned as he says that the only difference between him and Rin is the difference in their resolve to accept the fate of the outcome. Isagi thought that he'd finally reached Rin and even that he had won against him, but in the end he lost. To evolve, he has to now incorporate the piece called luck into his thought process. He has to update his understanding on a fundamental level in order to win against Rin. After that long-ass talk about luck, Ego says that it's finally time to move on from the second selection, saying that for the third selection, they will enter a training camp with several world-class players, starting with them playing a 5 versus 5 match against some of the mightiest world-class players, telling them that it's time for them to learn about the world. After that, we head back into their dorm room, where they are discussing their upcoming match. Tokimitsu is afraid, as he says that they are some of the best strikers in the world. Meanwhile, Isagi is looking at the screen with an intense look on his face as he says that blue lock is amazing. Bachira says that he's both scared and excited. However, he asks the football genius who that guy in the middle is. Tokimitsu tells him his name is Julian Loki and that he's a rising star who's been making big waves in the French league, saying that he's 17, meaning that he's around their age while being labeled as a prodigy. After they are done admiring Loki, Isagi asks Bachira where Rin is, as he hasn't seen him in a while. Bachira tells him that he goes off on his own at the end of the day, and then Isagi goes to seek him out. He goes to the physical studio where he sees Rin stretching and tries to copy what he's doing while being ridiculed by Rin. Rin tells him that this is the aftercare of his body as it helps him cool down with some yoga and meditation. Isagi says that it's amazing that he does this every day, but Rin just tells him to get out if he will keep distracting him. Rin explains that he's only doing all of this to beat his brother, and that it's the sole reason he's playing football. And if he wants to beat him, then he can't afford to waste a single moment. That doesn't satisfy Isagi, and he asks him if he's on bad terms with his brother. However, Rin tells him that they aren't necessarily on bad terms, but that it's as simple as if he wins, then everything will be resolved. That's the kind of inconvenient but favorable relationship they have. After that, Isagi tells Rin that he seems strict on himself, and that he gets the feeling that if he chases after Rin, he will get stronger as well, and that's why he sees Rin as his rival. Rin is surprised, but says that to him, Isagi is nothing, saying that it's true that in the last match, he lost to Isagi, but that won't happen a second time. As he said that, he went into a one-arm handstand, and as Isagi tries to replicate him, Rin tells him that he calls this "you're never gonna beat me" pose. This turns out to be true, as Isagi tries the pose but ultimately falls on top of Rin, which is so funny. After that, we get to 12 hours earlier where we see Ryo and Kunigami walking down a long path of stairs. Kunigami is thinking to himself, saying that they have ended up at the point of no return. He says that loss is no longer an option, and it's do or die in the next match. No matter what they have to do to win and claw their way back up, to then once again play with his former teammates. With that said, they have to pick carefully, as Ryo isn't in the best place mentally. He wonders if they should just pick a team they can win against easily, but that won't do, as it will make the following matches impossible. As they approach the 2 versus 2 meeting hall, they see a bunch of people. All of them tell Ryo and Kunigami that there is a guy who's beating everyone and won't agree to play him. Another one tells them that he was the top scorer in their stratum before, and it's none other than the man himself, Shidou Ryusei, who's holding the monk by his head as he deserves. Shidou asks Igarashi what they will do, and he tells Shidou that he's too violent, which scares the players, saying that they lost their last match because Shidou was beating up people and got sent off with a red card. Igarashi says that he should have never teamed up with someone like Shidou, but then Shidou has had enough of him and goes in for the finishing blow. But just as he's about to crush Igarashi's skull, Kunigami interferes, telling Shidou that it's enough. However, if it were me personally, then I would have just let Shidou crush Igarashi's skull. After that, Shidou goes in for another blow, which Kunigami once again blocks. Shidou compliments him and asks him if he's up for a match. However, Kunigami says that Shidou won't get a rise out of him and that he was only helping Igarashi out. And he adds on by saying that he hates violence and that he's only here to play football. After that, Shidou triggers him even more by slandering the word sportsmanship. Shidou says that to him, football is just fun and games. It's the very act of living, and compares it to an explosion of life. Kunigami is hesitant, as Shidou once again asks them to play, however Ryo tells them to do it. He says that he doesn't understand what Shidou means with explosions or whatever, but when it comes to hot-headed morons like him, you just need to give them a good beating. Kunigami is still on the edge, as he reminds Ryo that the other guys said that he was the top scorer of their stratum. However, to Ryo, that isn't any worry, as he says that it doesn't matter how strong he is and tells Kunigami that he has Igarashi as a partner after all, saying that if Shidou really is strong, then they will just have to win and make him theirs, and that if they hit rock bottom, it will be all over. And after that, Kunigami finally agrees. And with that, the match begins. Ryo has the ball, and Shidou comes to pressure right off the bat. Ryo thinks that Shidou is fast, and that he charges in head first, wondering if he's the explosive sprinting type. After that, Ryo sends the ball back to Kunigami. However, something to note is that as Ryo passes to Kunigami, Shidou kind of judges his pass and says that Ryo is at that level. The ball goes to Kunigami, who is up against Igarashi. Kunigami thinks that he just needs to get behind Igarashi and get to his scoring zone, but just as he's one step from his shooting zone, Shidou comes out of nowhere and smashes into his chest, and with that also gets control of the ball. Igarashi goes up against Ryo and tries to fool him with some scissor feints, but as we know, Igarashi is shit, so Ryo can easily predict where he wants to go. However, as he goes in for the ball, Igarashi makes an intentional foul, which to be fair is quite impressive, but still just look at what a rat he is. The game restarts, and Igarashi passes the ball to Shidou right off the bat. Shidou tells Kunigami that they aren't the ones he's searching for, and that they won't make his heart explode. Kunigami is shocked that Shidou has already been able to analyze their skills and their key points. Shidou tries to go behind Kunigami, but as he's doing so, he tells Kunigami that they are just trying to play a game of football, so there's no way that they will be able to figure him out. After that, Shidou makes a backheel pass to Igarashi and starts sprinting up on the field. Igarashi shots in a cross in the box, but Ryo manages to touch it in the last minute, which made it rebound. The ball falls to Shidou in a very unfortunate position, and even Kunigami tells him that it's impossible to score from that position. However, Shidou jumps and asks who decides what's impossible or not, as he makes an, I would like to say, bicycle kick, which goes into the goal beautifully and gives them the first goal. Both Ryo and Kunigami are in shock as they ask how it's possible for someone like him to even exist, while Shidou is just asking them to let him explode some more. After that, we jump to Team Isagi, who's currently walking out. Isagi stops and wonders how far he will actually be able to go against these top players. Before he can get any deeper in his thoughts, Bachira comes to him and asks him if he's scared, and he can't deny that he is, and Bachira says that he feels the same way. As they are about to walk out, Rin tells them that it doesn't matter who the opponent is, as they are going to win either way. He also kind of ruins the team's spirit by telling them to not drag him down. They finally walk out and see the furious World 5 staring at them. One of them starts to laugh at how skinny they look, and even though they don't understand English, they know that they are mocking them. However, then Rin out of nowhere starts to speak English with them, and then we get to see some of their names. We have the heavy tank Dada Silva from Brazilian, the goal junkie Adam Blake from England, and then we have the freckled child, as he's called for some reason. Anyway, his name is Pablo Cavazos from Argentina. However, it doesn't matter who they are for Rin, who tells them straight up that he will crush them so much that this little trip will be a traumatic memory for them. Just before a fight breaks out, another one comes to the rescue. He tells Rin that he's heard about him from Ego, and that he knows about Rin's brother Sei, saying that Sei is pretty well known all round. After that, we then finally get to see his name, and he's none other than Leonardo Luna from Spain. He tells Rin that he must be amazing if he's Sei's brother, and that he's been eagerly awaiting to play against him. Luna then out of nowhere starts making some passive-aggressive comments, saying that he doesn't really understand why Japan is willing to go through with all this much trouble for something which might not even come true. We can clearly see that Rin is starting to get angry, but then the last player comes in between them. It's the prodigy Julien Loki from France. He apologizes to Luna and says that he's got a pretty nasty personality. He then starts to greet every Blue Lock player and wishes them a good match. And with that, the third round selection, World 5 battle starts. Rin starts with passing to Bachira on the right. Bachira goes up against Pablo, and he does an outstanding double spin to get around him. Isagi compliments him and says that they can take them together. However, Bachira says that he would never pass to someone that would only match his expectations, meaning that Bachira won't pass to Isagi as long as he doesn't evolve and resonate with him. Even so, Bachira is already getting into some trouble with Pablo. Isagi knows that he has to be quick and adapt to Bachira if he wants to receive a pass from him. Isagi says that he needs to move just outside Bachira's range and then aim for the goal using his positioning while he's not noticed. When he gets into the perfect position, he gets some competition from no one else than the prodigy himself, Loki, who's come to stop Isagi in his tracks. Isagi has no choice but to challenge him. However, as he's doing so, Bachira passes, but it isn't to Isagi, but instead to Rin, who's been lurking behind him. Rin gets hold of the ball and scores a wonder goal. I love how blown away Tokumitsu looks. It looks like he's just seen a ghost or some. As Rin lands, Isagi says that Rin and Bachira have become able to match the likes of the world. And with that, Blue Lock is in the lead with 1 goal. Rin looks back and tells them to just keep acting like bait for him. Bachira is impressed, but also says that Rin's movements has gone up a level since Isagi joined. After that, we get an insight into Isagi's little brain. Isagi says that just then, he tried to surpass Bachira's vision, and his approach became the key. Thinking that even if they are world-class players, they probably weren't ready for such a swift attack from the get-go, and so he just ran into position to then be devoured by Rin. After that, we get Tokimitsu and Aryu, who looks feared by Rin, Bachira and Isagi, before they go up to Isagi and kind of treat him like their little brother as they ask him to let them join in on the fun. Isagi is happy that they managed to score, however, that goal wasn't his, and he's set on scoring the next one. After that, we get to the side of the world-class players, who say that they weren't expecting this type of level, and say that they will have to try a little after all, as they restart the game. Loki is going up against Isagi. Isagi thinks that everything is fine as long as he doesn't let Loki pass him. He says that Loki is watching and taking his time to draw closer. However, Loki just straight up stops the ball and asks Isagi if this is it, and all he can see is openings as he then starts going against Isagi at full speed, which Isagi is no way of reacting to as Loki goes right past him. Loki's speed shocks Isagi, but not only him, as Loki gets behind Bachira, Aryu and Tokimitsu as well. Even so, Rin is still left, and he goes to meet up with Loki, saying that it's obvious where he's going. Loki compliments Rin's decision-making. However, he once again reminds him that he's fast as he blitzes through him and scores the world-class team's first goal. However, Loki's goal does more than just make the scores, even as he inflicts fear into Rin's team. However, Rin tells them that it will be fine as long as they pass to him. The game restarts and Rin has the ball. However, he gets right off the bat, greeted by Loki, who's accompanied by Luna. Luna tells him that his lack of experience makes his perspective limited, and with that takes the ball and passes to Pablo. Isagi tells Bachira that Pablo is theirs and that they will surround him. However, before they can do any of that, he's already fired off a pass. Pablo's pass is an incredibly precise kick, but it's fine as Aryu will go to cover it. But somehow, and I don't know how, but Silva jumps even higher than Aryu and reaches the ball first. The ball goes to Blake, who is in a duel against Tokimitsu, but not even he can do anything against a world-class level player who tells him to move it as he's only interested in women, which is extremely important to state under this football match. Anyway, back to the game. Blake uses his body to make Tokimitsu fall to the ground, which makes him free in front of the goal, which in turn leads to him scoring a wonder goal, which gives the world-class players the lead. Isagi is standing there just watching while being amazed. He says that everything they have been doing in Blue Lock won't work and that they are getting crushed like ants. Even so, this is the level that he's trying to reach. He ends it by saying that football is amazing and that he also wants to join that world as well. However, it isn't only Isagi who's amazed about their strength, as Bachira says that they are farther away than he thought. The game restarts, and Bachira once again goes up against Pablo. Bachira starts doing some scissors, and when he's about to go behind Pablo, he gets the ball completely stolen. Pablo tells him that his rhythm is dynamic enough, but that he doesn't have enough attack patterns, as he takes the ball himself and makes a really cool looking heel pass to Blake. Tokimitsu is trying his best to move Blake's body, but it's to no use as he's like a bulldozer. Blake then passes the pass forward to Loki, who sees Silva in the box waiting for a pass. Loki makes an outstanding cross, which Silva manages to head perfectly and makes their third goal. Isagi is beginning to realize the sad reality that they have no way of winning, as he says that they are just getting pushed around. No matter what they do or how much they struggle, it's all worthless in the end. And we don't even get to see the play for Pablo's goal, but he sees him shooting the ball into the goal, which makes the score 1-4. Everyone is slowly beginning to realize the sad reality. However, someone who is determined not to lose is Rin. Rin tells Luna, who has the ball, that it's not over yet. Luna compliments him and says that he's the only one who truly thinks that he can win, and that's exactly why he's going to crush Rin wholeheartedly. Luna starts with some furious scissors. Rin is keeping close eyes on his legs, which leads to his downfall as he leaves himself open. Luna makes a gentle touch with the ball under Rin's legs. After that, there is no one to stop him as he makes the final goal of the match. As they leave, they tell them not to worry and that their true purpose was to assess them, saying that the real point of this match was to pick members for the Japanese team in the U20 World Cup. Loki adds on by telling them that it was already settled on them losing his match. As they're about to walk out, Luna tells them to meet in a real game next time. The world-class level players leave, and the Blue Lock players, while furious, can finally catch their breath. After that, we get into the Blue Lock special conference room. The businessmen there are furious at Ego, saying that he's spending way too much money on world-class players and asking him what his goal with this was. Ego tells them that if you love your children, you send them out into the world, explaining that the point was to have them experience the world at this sensitive period in their development, telling them all that he doesn't expect old-timers like them who gotten comfortable with giving up to be able to dream. The leader of the board tells Ego that it's enough and that he's putting a halt on the Blue Lock project. They are already fending off complaints from the participating students' parents, and the scope of this project remains unclear, not to mention that they are seeing zero results. Telling Ego that carrying this on any further would blemish the name of their organization, and ending it by saying that it's time to end this foolishness. Just as he's about to say something more unimportant, Ego stops him and tells him that he will get his results, saying that they will have a big match, and that it's time for Blue Lock to change the face of Japan. After that, we get back to Blue Lock and see their new third selection 5-person room. Isagi sits down and says that they really couldn't do anything in that last match. Ryu and Tokimitsu agree, but Bachira wonders why he feels so refreshed about losing, saying that it's probably because he's now fought against those he once thought he'd only ever see on TV, and that it feels like he's actually gotten a sense of what the world's best is like. Ryu says that becoming the world's best doesn't seem like such a fantasy anymore, and Tokimitsu says that it is definitely far away, but that it's possible. Isagi says that was probably Ego's goal with this match, to show them that. However, he thinks that Rin is different. In that match, Rin alone played from start to finish with the intention of winning against those world players. Of course, he started off trying to win as well, but they were so overwhelming that at some point, it started to feel more like they were just practicing moves on them. They were thrilled to have the chance to play against these players that they looked up to, but the way that Isagi is now with his current abilities, it's useless. However, he compliments Rin for feeling so frustrated and calling him amazing. As for Isagi, those world players are still just an existence he aspires to, but to Rin, they equal who he's trying to beat, saying that it's people like Rin who rise to the top of the world, which in turn means that the day Isagi wins against Rin will be the day that he will be able to stand on the world stage, ending it all with this cool panel, and Isagi saying that from his front row view of Rin, will he rise above him to become the best in the world. After that, we get into one of the most important things for foreign players to learn, which is of course language studies. Bachira tries to learn the different days, but gets most of them wrong, which makes Rin question how he even passed middle school, which is a fair question when looking at Bachira. Everyone keeps on bothering Rin, as he's the only one that can English decently. However, Isagi decides to start by training his ears to cut some slack off Rin. Rin is beginning to lose it all, and it doesn't help that he gets a paper plane thrown at him out of nowhere from Bachira, which makes him go into a furious state of rage. After that little rage break, the screen turns on behind them, and it's Ego talking. He says that the second selection has just come to an end, and all members who will advance to the third selection have now been gathered. Ego asks them to please put on their uniforms and gather in the central joint room, saying that altogether, 7 teams comprising of 35 members have successfully advanced, and members will be admitted in the order that they cleared the selection. As they are about to walk out, Bachira and Isagi state that a lot of people have failed, and Isagi wonders if their teammates from the first selection managed to advance. After that, they enter the room first, as they were the first team to finish. All of them are kind of nervous to see which players will have advanced and which players will have failed. However, they don't need to wait long before the second team enters. The second team consists of Nagi, Baru, Chigiri, Zantetsu, and Kiyora. Isagi has a relief look on himself as they come out. They see this and ask if he seriously didn't think that they would make it, and Chigiri says that he's still treating them as support characters in a joking way. Isagi assures them that that's not the reason, and that he's just really happy to be able to see them again, which created a very sweet moment between the 4 of them. However, not long after comes the third team, which consists of Yukimiya, Otoya, Karasu, Himizu, Yuzu. Isagi and Bachira say that they don't recognize any one of them, and says that it's not just them that are fighting after all. After that, the fourth team comes out, and it consists of Nanansa, Endoji, Hiragi, Tsunzaki, and Haji. Nothing too special to say about them. The fifth team enters, and it consists of Hiroi, Nico, Saranadara, Ishikiari, and also Nishioka. But he got injured during the world-class match, so he's currently being treated. Even Tokimitsu states that that's the Aomori Messi, and I really hope that we will get to see him play sometime in the future. But how do you feel about him? Would you like him to play? Or do you rather want to have him like a joke character? Let me know down in the comments. Anyway, After that, the penultimate team comes out, or I should say fall out, as they make a rather interesting entrance. The sixth team consists of Gagamaru, Raichi, Tanaka, Shiguma, and one of the Wanima brothers. Isagi is extremely happy to see both Raichi and Gagamaru once again, and Bachira says that they haven't changed one bit. However, this leaves them with just one team left, and not to mention that not Kunigami nor Ryo has made their entrance yet. Even so, Isagi is sure that they will both come out. The last and seventh teams entered, and we can clearly see Igarashi, Kurona, and Sokura being the first three coming out. However, there are two dark silhouettes behind them. I swear I was as shocked as Bachira is that Igarashi managed to clear it. Anyway, one of the first silhouettes comes out of the dark, and it's Ryo, which leaves them with one more chance to see Kunigami. However, the one to come out isn't Kunigami, but unfortunately, Shidou. Isagi is stunned, saying that there's no way that Kunigami didn't make it. He looks over to Ryo and asks him why they aren't together. However, Ryo isn't responding, so Isagi screams out of anger that there's no way that Kunigami would let things end like this. However, after that comes Shidou, who tells Isagi that it did really happen, and that he was the one who sent him to hell. Shidou adds oil to the fire as he says that he admits that Kunigami was pretty well built, and that he had a graceful heart. However, they were out on the field. He doesn't give a damn about how good a person is, saying that a shitty hero like Kunigami with his purity and seriousness was just a slime who couldn't even give him enough exp to level up. Isagi only gets angrier after that as he tells Shidou that he knows nothing about Kunigami. However, as Shidou already said, he doesn't care about anyone's story, as we see here where he jumps up and tries to kick Isagi right in the face. Luckily, Chigiri was there to drag him down and avoid Shidou's kick. Bachira comes to back them up, saying that if Shidou wanna have a go, then they can. However, he will be standing alone. Before they can get any further, Ego pops up on the screen and says that any further violence will lead to them being forcibly ejected. Not only that, but he says that the players don't have any time to worry about dropouts as their football lives are on the very edge of being trashed and disappearing into oblivion, alongside Blue Lock. However, before he goes any further, he congratulates everyone who's managed to get here, saying that their defeat against the world-class players will be an invaluable experience, but that he will explain the reason for it another day. Ego had originally planned for them to whittle down in their group. However, there's been a change of plans. He says that it seems that the overlords of the Japanese football world have made up their minds to stamp out Blue Lock as soon as possible, and that's why he had no choice but to give them a challenge, and that's why their next selection will be in 3 weeks, and it will be a match with the continued existence of Blue Lock at stake. It will be the spectacular match between the Japan U20 versus Blue Lock's 11, and if they manage to win this game, then they will hijack the Japanese national team. Before Ego goes into more detail about the match, we get a flashback to 72 hours ago, where we see Kunigami alone in the field. He thinks back to his defeat against Shidou and hears Shidou's voice, as he says that he will take Ryo over Kunigami, looking at Kunigami with disappointment, as he says that someone who can't break themselves down will be able to trigger an explosion. After that, Kunigami walks out and thinks about what it was that he was lacking, as he couldn't become the best striker in the world. His precious dream, this is where it all ends. That is what I would have said if Kunigami didn't notice that there was 2 doors as he was walking out. One door led to the exit while the other one led to the wild card, which is the loser's qualifier. Before we see what the hero chooses, we get back to Ego. Reichi is surprised at how they even accepted those conditions, and Ego says that it's because they don't think that there's a chance they'll lose. Their opponents are a ragtag team of high schoolers after all, and not to mention that every single member is a forward, which had them laughing as they were signing the agreement to the game. Their goal is to terminate the Blue Lock project and to make a ton of money off the potential crowds who'll be buzzing about a national rep match. By then defeating Blue Lock and making them the laughingstocks, they will use Blue Lock as an example of failed nurturing, which will sear into the history of Japanese football. He asks them how they feel, and if they resent their contempt, did they flare up with the desire to put them in their place? As for Ego himself, a level-headed and realistic standpoint, he says that the way they are now, they have a chance to overturn the world of Japanese football. However, with all that said, their opponents are also using every card in their hand to ensure their victory, saying that the current Japanese national U20 team they will be facing will be adding 1 member to their roster, which is none other than the man himself, Itoshi-sei, who will make his first appearance in the squad, which gives Rin a shocked look at his face as he sees his brother. Ego tells his unpolished gems that the time has come for them to stake everything that they've got. All through their experiences here, they have realized their egos and acquired weapons and chemical reactions. For the 35 of them who have experienced what it means to face the world's best, A position in Japan's national U20 team is not a pipe dream, but a reality that can be grasped simply by reaching out for, ending it, by telling his unpolished gems that the ones to change this era will be Blue Lock. And as he says that, we also see a fired Isagi, but also a fired up Kunigami, who's decided to go into the wild card. You thought that Ego was done talking, didn't you? Well, so did I, but Ego can't stop himself, it seems like. Ego says that the match will take place in 3 weeks, and it will be the Japan U20 led by Itoshi Sai versus the Blue Locks program. Not only that, but victory will grant them a position in the U20 national team, while defeat will mean utter dissolution of Blue Lock. Isagi is standing there looking at Ego amazed, saying that not too long ago he was just a nameless nobody, but now if he can manage to win, then he can finally join the national team. He knows that he can completely change his life with this match. However, Raichi quickly catches on, and asks Ego how he will determine the members that get to play, and Gagamaru asks if they will have to play as midfielders and defenders. Ego says that that goes with saying, and that they can't forget the goalkeeper. Other than the forwards, they will have to rush to patch together a team. Tokimitsu is scared, as he says that this is too much, as the U20 will have actual defenders and suches. However, before he can say any more, Ego tells everyone to shut up and says that he isn't some moron. The formation of the Blue Lock team will center around the following 6, whose names he will now call out, given their overall evaluations as of this moment. These individuals rank as the top 6, and with the goal of putting together a team in just 3 weeks short, this will be their best method. The first and best player is, to no one's surprise, Rin. After Rin comes Shidou on a steadily second place. As Ego is reading out the names, Isagi is thinking to himself that he also wants to be chosen. After that, we get right into third and fourth place, which consists of first Karasu and then Otoya. After then comes the 5th player, which is Yukimiya. Isagi is thinking that there's just one more player, and that the candidates that Ego has chosen to center the team's formation around, he wants to be one of them. However, his dream quickly gets shattered, as Ego calls out Nagi as the 6th player. The 5th player, Yukimiya, asks for Ego's reason for putting him in 5th place, asking what the difference between him and the first is. Ego tells him that it's simple, and that among the 35 of them, the only ones able to score a goal against the world-class players were Rin and Shidou. After that, he took into consideration how many goals they scored in the first selection, and the world-class players' personal evaluations, and lastly, he used his own judgment. After that, Ego starts explaining the next election, saying that the top 6 will be separated into pairs in descending order, and will be assigned A, B, and C rank, which will make 3 separate teams. Next, the remaining 29 players will decide at their own discretion which team they want to join, and they will be added to their chosen team in randomized groups of 3 to make a complete team of 5. After that, each team will have the chance to play matches against another team in a 5 versus 5 style. Isagi thinks that this is very well set up, and Ego's goal is to find out which members will suit the top 6's best offensive pattern. Ego gets back to his planning and says that members of the top 6 will be playing in multiple games, while the remaining 29 will have just one chance to play, saying that this is the final task of the revised 3rd selection, and with a position as a regular on Japan's national U20 team on the line, it's time for their tryouts. Also, once the 29 who aren't in the top 6 have divided into groups of 3, it makes 3 times 9, which equals 27, which means that one team will be a member short, making them a team of 2. So as an exception, just one more person will have the chance to play in 2 matches, and that honor will go to the runner-up to the top 6, which is the number 7th player, Bachira. Bachira is happy to be chosen, while Isagi is a bit jealous, saying that up until now they had been playing side by side. However, now all of his teammates are above him. Ego tells the top 6 players to proceed to a different room, which only they will enter. While they are doing so, Ego continues and says that these rankings are merely reflected in their current evaluations. And even if you're in the top 6 now, by the end of the tryouts, these rankings could be turned completely upside down. So go in with that mindset as they face the upcoming battle. So the top 6 have left, and Ego talks with the 29 remaining, and he tells them that the key to clearing the tryout lies in how they will face the top 6, and most importantly, how they will assert and coexist. Ego says that the top 6 are players who have already shown strengths of their characters and proven their ability to score goals. Against them, they must assert their own evaluations and coexist as an irreplaceable entity. And lastly, he tells them to go and surpass them. To them, the top 6 are there to be challenged. They are their greatest opponents. They are not their fellow comrades to fight alongside, so steal their thunder and use them as your stepping stones. Within the next 24 hours, they must choose the ones who will hold the fate of their future in their hands. After that springing and intense speech, we get into the dining hall where most of Team Z is eating. They reminisce about the ones they've lost, who are of course Naruhaya, Kun, Imamura, Iemen, and Kunigami. Everyone is surprised that Kunigami lost. However, Chigiri reminds them that this is Blue Lock and says that more importantly, this whole place is toast if they lose to the U20, so none of them have the leisure to worry about others like that. After that, they discuss which team they will be joining. Igarashi says that he's thinking of Team A as he's been with Shidou this entire time, and Gagamaru is thinking of going to either B or C. The other ones don't really know yet where they want to go, and Raichi is a bit angry that Bachira is the highest ranked out of Team Z. They ask Isagi, but before he can even answer, Bachira says that it's either A or C, right? Isagi says that he's right and asks how he knew. Bachira explains that if you want to spark chemical reactions with his weapon, you will pick Team C, which has Nagi, who he can combo with. However, if he wants to bet on his unsurpassed and unknown potential, he'll pick Team A, which has Rin in it. Isagi thinks that trying to draw attention to himself in Team A with Rin won't be easy, and there's a considerable chance that he'll get buried without doing anything. So should he choose the foundation with established combos, or should he jump into the hands of his rival? After that, Isagi wanders off to the washroom where he talks to Baru. Baru says that he is going anywhere that isn't Team C, as he's tired of Nagi, and he isn't going to get better by playing with the same old people. However, Baru quickly changes tone and asks Isagi why he isn't in the top 6, and says that it pisses him off. Baru tells him that he's planning to crush him and to not let himself get buried in a place like this. After that, Baru leaves and another familiar face comes around, and it's Nico. Nico tells him that Ego is planning on putting flames on the competition with this, and in the end, Nico thinks that they are being tested on how well they can fit in with the top 6. Nico says that he's going to pick members where he can get his plays through, and that he has had enough of being pushed to the sidelines, saying that he's learned from Isagi that you have to steal the main role for yourself. However, after that awesome speech, Nico asks Isagi to leave as he doesn't like to wash his forehead in front of other people, and Isagi is just thinking about how weird that complex is. After that, we get into the top 6 VIP room where the top 6 players have been gathered. Ego says that by fighting to come this far, all of them have undoubtedly proven their place as the Blue Lock's elite. Ego tells them that he's tuned each of the teams A, B, and C with the pairs that'll allow for the most theoretical attack power. Ego wants them to show him new attacks that they couldn't do alone, and to think of the other as a tool to make them the best striker in the world, and not to dare lose their position in the top 6 from someone else, as all of them stand at the very peak of Blue Lock, and the football that they create will become the blade that destroys Japanese football. Ending it by telling them to remember that he wants to see all of them rise up to that challenge. After that, we get into the monitoring room, where Isagi is looking at both Nagi and Rin, while wondering who would make the best choice. Someone comes and asks if he's having trouble picking a team, and it's Ryo who says that he's also struggling. Isagi says that he thought that Ryo would go straight to Nagi's team. However, Ryo says that he doesn't want to hear it from the very guy who split them up. Even so, he says that he was planning to, but is having second thoughts, saying that after Nagi chose Isagi in the second selection, he ended up coming all the way here planning on making him regret that, but now seeing how he's risen all the way to the top 6, and objectively comparing Ryo's level compared to his, it feels like Nagi's starting to feel more and more like someone he'll never catch up to, saying that he doesn't know if he has the confidence to play besides him. However, he also feels like if he let this chance go by, he might not get a second one. Even so, if he mess up while playing with him, it feels like he'll get even farther away, so he doesn't really know what he should do anymore. When Ryo is done, Isagi says that he knows exactly how he feels, as Isagi feels the same way about Rin. However, how he sees it now, it's like if they don't fight together, then he might go beyond somewhere Isagi can reach, and that's the one thing he doesn't want to regret. He says that as he picks Rin and thinks that that's the guy he wants to be beside right now. As Isagi gets up, he thanks Ryo as he found the resolve thanks to him. Isagi has a determined look on his face as he says that he's going to prove that the path he's chosen for himself isn't wrong. The next morning rolls around and the deadline for the voting phase has ended, telling the players that the third selection will soon begin and to gather up. They arrive in the gathering area, and Isagi is thinking that it's finally time for the last stage before the match against the U20, and that he will give it his all in these tryouts to get a position in Blue Lock's 11. However, as he's chosen Team A, his fate lies in the hands of Rin and Shidou. Even so, he has to give it his all in these upcoming matches. After that, we get to see which team everyone chose. We also see that Bachira went to Team A as Isagi, and Ryo followed his heart and went with Nagi. The first match in the third selection arc will be between Team A and Team B. Igo beginnings to randomly select the members. The first one on Team A is Nananse Nijiru. The second one is Hiroi Yu. And lastly, it's our poster boy, Isagi Yoichi. That's a very fearful lineup, so let's see which players they will play against. The first two are Shiguma Kyohei and Saramadara Kairu. And then we have my lover boy, who is none other than Huma Chigiri. Anyway, the game starts with a pass from Rin to Shidou. He dashes up on the field, but gets accompanied by Otoya, who is giving Shidou a hard time. Isagi sees that Otoya is able to match Shidou's level, so he goes to assist him, which gives him a pass. With the ball at Isagi's feet, there is only one player he is set to pass, and it's of course Rin. Shiguma goes to block Rin, but gets hit by a 2-on-1 from Rin, and Isagi, who gets behind him in no time. Isagi sees their opportunity and passes to Rin, but just then, the princess himself goes to block the ball. The ball bounces up in the sky and lands in Team B's goal penalty area. When Saramadara goes to clear it, he gets interrupted by Shidou, who gets to the ball first. Isagi says that Shidou's reflexes are in fact not normal, but instead really fast. He also says that he can read the possibilities of Shidou and goes to assist him with the ultimate goal of also throwing Rin into the mix to get him to score. But just then, Shidou reaches the ball and kicks it from behind right into the goal, giving Team A a 1-goal lead. Isagi is shocked at Shidou's ability to score without even looking at the goal and understands that this is the true power of the second best player in Blue Lock, Ryusei Shidou. But with Shidou's goal, he also woke up another furious player on the field. After that, Team B started with the ball and Otoya passes it on to Karasu. Isagi goes to block him, and when he sees Karasu looking away, he sees his opportunity to take the ball, but Karasu had already anticipated that and gets around him. But Isagi is still at the back of his tail. Karasu tells Isagi that he is the weak point of Team A and that he will crush them in this match. Just then, Shidou comes to back up Isagi. But Karasu uses his knowledge of gravity and uses it to shift both Shidou's and Isagi's center points, which lets him get behind them with a feint. After that, he scores with ease, making it even. Hiroi tells Isagi that Karasu uses his sharp analytical ability to pinpoint the weak link in the opposing team and crushes them, and tells Isagi that he is Karasu's prey. Hiroi knows Karasu since their time in the youth team in Kanzai and advises Isagi to not hide his weakness, but instead to fight with his strengths. Shidou passes the ball to Isagi and tells him to do the same thing as before, basically making Isagi do all the dirty work. Karasu goes to block Isagi and also blocks his way of passing to Rin, making it a 1-on-1. When Isagi thinks about ways to get the ball to Rin, Karasu takes his hand and forces his way into Isagi's lane, which also gives him the ball. Karasu runs to the goal, but is met with a 3-on-1 by Team A. But another player has been making quiet steps around the field, and that player is none other than Otoya, who gets behind both Hiroi and Rin with the use of his stealthy steps. And with no one left, the ninja scores, giving Team B a 1-goal lead and also showing off their full abilities. Every one of the Team B gives them credit for their insane strong offensive abilities, or except Rin, who just brushes it off. The game is back on, and Rin has the ball. Isagi screams to use him, but just then, Karasu comes in his way, blocking Rin's passing way. But Rin isn't two-faced as he passes the ball to Hiroi, telling him to match him. The two of them break through both Saramadara and Shiguma with ease. Isagi sees their play and understands that Hiroi's skill is his really good passing. Otoya goes to block Rin, not to mention that Shidou and Chigiri also come, but none of that matters, because Rin is the best player after all, and he proves it by using Shidou's movements as a cover to then score, making it even. Even though Rin is playing the game perfectly, Isagi isn't happy, as he hasn't been able to do anything this game. He knows that this might be his most important match to prove himself, and thinks about what it is he can do to stand out. Chigiri is also having the same thoughts as Isagi has, and knows that to the top 6, they are all replaceable. But even then, he is determined to do all he can to prove himself. The game is back on, and Karasu starts with the ball. Chigiri tries to analyze the field to find out what he can do. He sees that Otoya is always sticking close to Karasu, and that it's useless to get between them. To be useful, he has to do what he is best at, which is running. So he goes to the right side. Isagi tries to stop him, but Chigiri just bursts through him. Karasu sees Chigiri and decides to give him a chance, so he passes. Rin goes to block Chigiri's passing ways, but it's useless because Otoya has already entered the penalty area, and Chigiri sees it as he makes his pass, and tells him that Chigiri's speed hypes him up as he scores another goal. With that, Chigiri finally proved himself to both Karasu and Otoya. The game is back on, and Rin passes to Hiroi without even thinking about Isagi. Isagi realizes that he can't do anything about that, and instead goes to wait in front of the goal for a chance. But Isagi is quickly accompanied by Karasu, who isn't letting him go. Hiroi sees Rin and passes, but just as the ball is going down, both Rin and Shidou go for it, making them collide with each other. The ball bounces to Chigiri, who passes it to Otoya, who passes it on to Karasu, who scores his second goal this game, making the score 2-4 to Team B, who is now only 1 goal from winning. With that mistake, Rin and Shidou start going off at each other before Nanase breaks it up. The game starts with Rin being in control of the ball before passing it on to Hiroi, but it gets intercepted by Otoya, who breaks their 1-2 pass. Isagi screams to use him, but it's useless as Karasu is still marking him down. But then for the first time in this match, Nanase calls for a pass which he gets from Hiroi. This also benefits Isagi, because when Karasu looks over at Nanase, that's when Isagi uses Karasu's blind spot to break through him. Isagi now has the ball, and he looks for an opening for Rin. He sees one, but just when he's about to shoot the ball, Shidou comes running to him, telling him to pass him. Isagi thinks that Shidou will pass the ball to Rin after receiving it, so he passes. But instead of passing, Shidou turns around to shoot the ball himself, making an amazing goal. Isagi now knows that what's left for him is to score his own goal, and to really mark his presence in this game. Team B starts with the ball, and Karasu is set on breaking Isagi. Just when they are about to meet, Rin comes in their way, telling Isagi to go away. The duel between Karasu and Rin is fairly even, but Karasu sees it as meaningless as he isn't getting past him. So instead he decides to pass to Otoya, but when he passes the ball, that's when Isagi strikes and comes from behind both of their blind spot and intercepts the pass and gains control of the ball. He makes a 1-2 with Hiroi to get behind Saramadara, but behind him waits Otoya, who tells him that the roads are closed. But it doesn't stay closed for long as Nanase comes asking for a pass from Isagi, which he receives. The three of them completely break Team B's midfield, but back in defense lies Chigiri, who tries to stop their breakthrough, but just then, Shidou comes running, asking for a pass, telling them that he can score. So Hiroi passes, but he doesn't pass to Shidou, no, he passes to Isagi, who is running freely on the field. But unfortunately, Isagi misses the ball with just the tip of his shoe. Team B clears the ball, but the cleared ball falls to both Rin and Karasu, who is in a fearful battle with each other. Rin luckily reaches the ball first, and makes an incredible goal, making it even. Isagi knows that the final step couldn't be reached by him, but by Rin. When Karasu and Rin fall to the ground, Karasu compliments Isagi, and says that he has awakened into a better player than he was before. Isagi says that the three of them have finally become useful to Shidou and Rin, but even with that, Isagi is frustrated because this isn't the type of football he wants to play. Hiroi goes forward to Isagi to apologize for the pass he sent, but Isagi denies that and tells Hiroi that his pass was perfect and that it was his body that couldn't keep up. But that's when Hiroi explains to Isagi that if he starts to move after he has thought about it, it will be too late. Hiroi tells Isagi that up till this point, he has made plays by seeing, thinking then moving, but that it won't keep up anymore. And to become a stronger and a better player, he has to do it in reverse and move before even thinking. With that, the game is back on. Karasu has the ball, but is being marked down by both Rin and Isagi, so he decides to pass to Chigiri and tells him to burst past them. But just as the pass is going down, Shidou intercepts it and steals it from Chigiri and says that the star has now entered the stage. The loose ball falls to Nanase, who passes it on to Isagi. Isagi and Hiroi link and passes each other before Karasu comes and blocks his passing way to Hiroi. But just then, Rin comes and tells Isagi to pass him. Isagi also sees Nanase on the side and creates a triangular formation to break through Team B, with Karasu and Otoya left in the dust. Isagi passes the ball onto Hiroi, but Hiroi is getting into some real trouble with Chigiri, who isn't letting him pass. Isagi knows that whoever takes control of the middle area of the goal will be the one who scores the final goal. He thinks about where he should position himself to score, but he can't find anywhere. After that, he gives up to try and think about where to position himself, and instead does as Hiroi told him, and to move before thinking, so Isagi stops thinking and is now moving by feeling. Hiroi finally shakes off Chigiri and passes the ball into the middle where both Rin and Shidou are headed to. Both of them are about to hit the ball, but just then another player enters. And that player is none other than Isagi Yoichi, who goes in between both of them and reaches the ball first. So he shoots a killer ball right into the net, which gives Team A the win. Isagi doesn't understand it, but what he does understand is that in that moment, he definitely surpassed both Rin and Shidou. Nanase jumps on top of Isagi out of happiness and tells him that he was unbelievable in that moment. Even Shidou says that he quite liked it when Isagi exploded. And to top it all off, Rin comes and tells him that he made a super goal before ending it with calling it luck, and telling him that he pisses him off. After that, Shidou and Rin get into a fight like they always do, and I love how Otoya is just spectating as he says that he loves seeing these kind of brawls. However, the brawl doesn't last long as Ego tells them to break it up immediately and prepare for the next match. After that, we get into the monitor room, where Isagi and Nanase are watching the replays of his fantastic goal. Nanase asks Isagi if he had it all planned out ahead of time. However, Isagi tells him that it was like he was thinking as he was moving, and then as he was reacting. And at the end, while avoiding the space between Rin and Shidou, he broke free. Nanase is amazed, saying that it was like Isagi was sensing that moment. Hiroi comes by and says that he didn't expect Isagi to score. He made that pass thinking that either Shidou or Rin would pick it up. Even so, Hiroi tells him that right now, reflecting and analyzing his own plays is a really important thing to do. Isagi thanks him, but asks him why he gave Isagi the advice about thinking by reflex, which was what led Isagi to that goal. Hiroi asks him if he's big into games and starts saying that he's a huge gamer, and brings up tile matching games like Tetris, saying that in those games you start out slow, so you have time to make your moves, but by the end, they're way too fast, which makes it hard to even think. A play speed required to coexist with Shidou and Rin is about as difficult as that. While playing Tetris, everyone is thinking about how many pieces are piled up right now, which block they have now, and which will come next, saying that you understand, think, and then act. The best gamers can process that information at a high speed and are able to press the buttons to get the best course of action, which is a way of reflex. Even so, this can also be applied to football. Isagi finally gets it, and Nanase, I'm not too sure, but whatever. Isagi says that at that moment, he was thinking about where everyone was on the field and what they had planned, what weapons he can use, and where the next pass will come. Processing all of his abilities simultaneously at top speed, he was able to arrive at the best point before anyone else. Hiyori tells him that that's correct, and that it was the result of everything he's built up until now. It may look like he got incredible out of nowhere when in reality, everything that he can do came together in that moment. Isagi's puzzle pieces start floating wild as always, as he says that this is the truth behind this sensation, something that almost makes him forget about himself. Even though he's gotten praise a lot now, he's still our humble king, as he says that he was only able to pull this off because of the right conditions came together. Rin and Shidou fighting amongst themselves was what allowed him to move easily, and above all, if the two of them weren't there, this all would have impossible, and with that, he thanks them. Nanas tells him that, to be honest, he was the only one he could really catch up to. He apologizes if he sounds rude, but Rin and Shidou's movements felt like they were in a different dimension, so he couldn't really figure them out, but in Isagi's case, it felt like he could understand a bit what was going on. After that, we get a really sweet moment where they all celebrate their result for the tryouts. Isagi is thinking that he's managed to acquire a new sensation, but that he hasn't mastered it yet. He needs to be able to reproduce it, and if he can learn to use it freely, he will be able to go even higher. Before he can dream any longer, Hiroi tells them that the second match is about to start, which is none other than Team C against Team A. As they are beginning, Ryo goes to Nagi and says that he better watch him closely. After that, the kickoff begins. Ryo has the ball and is thinking to himself, saying that after Nagi left him, he's become stronger. He has given everything he had to win so that he could reach him. But even so, Nagi is so far ahead of him, and that's why in this match he will prove to Nagi that he's the only one who should be by his side. They get behind Shidou by trading passes with each other, and then Ryo sees a perfect cross opportunity. The ball is going down, but it isn't going to Nagi, as Ishikari, who's the tallest high school player, comes and heads away it. The ball lands at Rin's feet, and Igarashi comes beside him and tells him that he can help, just straight lying to him, but that's who Igarashi is. Rin somehow decides to pass him, and he's ecstatic over it, before Ryo comes in his way and guards him. Igarashi sees both Rin and Shidou awaiting a pass, and he thinks about who to pass to. However, suddenly he hears Shidou screaming at him and asking him if he wants to have his head smashed in, which leads to Igarashi passes him out of fear. However, Gagamaru is guarding the flying ball clearly, as he jumps up and Scorpion kicks it away with a small sacrifice of all of the ribs in his body. The ball goes to the number 5th player, Yukimiya Kenyu, who's right off the bat facing trouble with Rin. However, he deals with those problems by doing drag scissors, which catches Rin off guard. Even so, behind Rin lies Shidou, and I don't know how he does it, but he doesn't only break Rin's ankles, as Shidou joins in on that list, after getting dumb fooled by Yukimiya. But once again, his problems just keep piling up, as Ishikari and half a brain are behind. Ryo comes by telling Yukimiya to use him. However, that's not how Yukimiya does things, as he goes into a shooting stance and shoots the ball even though the goal is more than 30 meters away. and not to mention that he's got no opening. The ball is going way over the goal, and Igarashi thinks that he's smart, as he laughs at Yukimiya's shot. But suddenly the ball starts to drop, and we get to see that he shot a gyro shot. However, even though it's a great shot, it's not over just yet, as Ryu is heading for it, but so is someone else. And that someone else is our beloved Nagi Seishiro, who traps the ball just outside the goal, and then shoots a pretty outstanding shot into the goal, making their first goal of the match. However, something is more important to Nagi, as he apologizes for stealing Yukimiya's goal. Ryo is looking from afar, saying that he isn't capable of scoring a goal like the one Nagi did. Everything from Yukimiya's dribble to his gyro shot, and Nagi's decision to trap the ball, saying that they aren't linking up but rather bringing out their super plays. They're enhancing one another, and to Ryo, it feels like he will never reach them. He isn't enough to satisfy Nagi anymore, not to mention that it looks like Nagi is having so much fun now. Ryo thinks back to the old days when he was looking bored while receiving his passes. Ryo realizes that this isn't the Nagi from that time anymore, and most importantly, Nagi isn't Ryo's treasure anymore. After that, the match restarts, and Shidou really thinks that Rin will play with him, which he won't of course. Ryo is going to stop Rin while thinking that the top 6 really are in a class of their own. They're on a level that can't be achieved through effort alone, and all the weapons that they possess which go above and beyond. In contrast, Ryo is a balanced all-rounder with any special weapons, no matter how much he improves the quality of his plays. His max stats will end up capping at 99, and with specs like that, how could he ever become one of the top 6? Rin ends up getting behind Ryo with a nutmeg, and Igarashi comes by, asking for a pass. However, Rin passes to Ishikari, who heads it to Ryu, who gets the ball to Rin's feet, which leads to an easy goal, making it even between the teams. Ryo is amazed just looking at the top 6 go. He thinks that all his life he's always gotten what he wanted, but it looks like there may be some things in this world that are out of his reach. World champion and becoming the best striker in the world. As it isn't only Ryo who's aiming for those things, saying that he's pretty sure that there is nothing else they want. No, that's the only thing that could ever get them fired up, calling them all utter idiots, which is exactly why they are so radiant. However, Ryo is different. Even if he loses here, he will be able to live just fine, calling it all bullshit and saying that if he were to go back to his company, all he would ever find is boredom, and what he really wants is here in Blue Lock. And if his dream is something already bound to disappear miserably, then he will throw it all away and become an idiot himself. He says this as the game restarts, and he rushes up on the field. Yukimiya has the ball and gets behind Igarashi easily, but fails when Rin comes. The lost ball falls to Ryo. Ryo thinks that no matter how much he raises his stats, he can never pass his limit of 99%. Then, with the talent and the dexterity to constantly play at a balanced high level, Ryo says that it's finally time to be brave and kick back into gear as he has the ball at his feet. Ryo continues to advance on the field and he sees an opportunity with Nagi. Nagi tells him to come to him, however Ryo is getting into a shooting stance, saying that he isn't passing and that he's also changed since coming to Blue Lock. Ryo finally pulls the trigger and shoots. However, it isn't just any shot, as it's the exact shot that Yukimiya used. The ball goes into the goal and Ryo introduces his new style, which is the infamous chameleon style. And with that, they got the lead. After that, we see the trio watching Ryo's goal in full action. Isagi is impressed and says that this is the answer Ryo came to in order to survive Blue Lock. Nanas says that copying others must make him unbeatable. However, Hiroi tells him that copying others is just copying after all. No matter how skillful you copy something, you can only reproduce 99% of its best potential. And if he tries to copy someone who's strong enough to push past 100%, he won't be able to win easily. While they are talking about that, we see Rin scoring the final goal of the match, giving Team A their well-deserved win. After that, Ryo sits down on the ground saying that his new style isn't something that can beat the top 6 yet. However, he's definitely caught sight of the path he needs to take toward his evolution. Nagi comes by complimenting Ryo's goal. However, Ryo looks at him with a rather sad look and says that it's still not enough and not the football that Nagi wants to play. Nagi says that he's right, and then Ryo tells him not to bother with him and keep waiting for him from above, thinking that he will become someone who Nagi wants to chase after, and that he won't rest until he gets what he wants. After that, we get into the Football Association top secret meeting room, where Japan's team coach and the president of the football union are talking. However, they are so boring, so let's skip their speech, because the real deal happens when Sei barges into the room. He tells them that he's watched the videos of all the Japan U20 players, and says that they are all shit, especially the forwards. He tells them that he agreed to join the team because he heard that he would get to play against Blue Lock. However, if this is the kind of school team level trash they are gonna throw at him, then he's backing out. The football coach gets really mad, but the other guy knows how to strike a deal, as he tells Sei that he can nominate anyone to play in that match, as long as they are from Japan. Sei tells them that there is one striker that he would like to play with, and that striker is in Blue Lock. After that, we get to the third selection waiting room. Isagi wakes up and goes to check up on the last game of the selection, and he's greeted to a bunch of players, having a watch party to the matches. Nanas tells him that he tried to wake him up, but that it was impossible. Even so, he tells Isagi that he can watch the recordings, and that he can see all of the member that scored over at the board. He takes a quick look and sees that both Bachira and Baru has managed to score, but that's not all, as the last match is in its last stages. Both Rin and Shidou are headed for the ball. However, as they get away the ball to the goal, they kinda crash with each other. They win the game but start fighting with each other right after. Shidou gets in a hefty kick to Rin's face, which makes him fall to the ground. Even so, this doesn't satisfy Shidou, as he goes in for the finishing blow. But before he can actually execute Rin, Ego sets out a shock which makes Shidou kind of paralyzed. Ego says that the tryouts are over, and that 6 hours from now, he will announce the regulars for the match against the U20 team. And that was the whole third selection arc explained. Now this arc was amazing to say the least. We got to see so many new faces and even some familiar ones. Not to mention how intense these last games were, and of course when Isagi surpassed Rin and Shidou. However, I think that we should use that term lightly. Anyway, what did you think about this arc? Please comment it down in the comments. And if you like Blue Lock and videos like these, then please consider subscribing to the channel. Leave a like and a comment, and why not share the video as well? Anyway, thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.